Hello, friendos, and welcome to episode 95 of the Noclip podcast. If you're watching the video version of this, me running away for a second was me going to see if I could turn the light on above me, but I didn't get there on time. So it's going to be badly lit for the whole thing. But that's okay, because most of you listen to this on audio and wondering what I look like. Do you ever do that? Do you ever listen to a podcast for a couple of years and build up this like mental image, Jeremy, of the people you're listening to, and then you see them and they're all different and squidgier and older than you thought.
Yeah, the worst one for me was The Lord of the Rings, which I don't think counts as a podcast.
Yeah, that famous podcast by J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah, talking Tolkien.
How did you? Who was the weirdest? Who was the one that? Did you not realize the hobbits were tiny? Did you?
I don't know. I thought Gandalf was kind of scarier or something. Is that weird? He's a friendly wizard, but I thought he was a scary wizard. He's very intimidating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's kind of Ian McKellen is such a grandfatherly, friendly figure.
Too warm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see it. Frank Kelly, what about you? Have you been shocked by any classic literature recently?
Classic literature. Let's see. No, just picking up my normal comic books. In terms of literature, I did finish the Beastie Boys book, so that saga is over, but it left a good impression.
Frank is undefeated. You can throw him the most fucked up segue, and he'll just like grab it and like do a little doodle-doo like Harlem Globetrotters and then slam dunk.
Well, let me carry that all the way through, and this is the one big piece of gaming news.
Okay,
is in my Beastie Boys research. I wanted to see like, okay, can I play as the Beastie Boys as anything? So I booted up Def Jam Fight for New York. They weren't invited, but they are in NBA Street Volume 3. You can play them. You have to unlock them, but the Beastie Boys are in NBA Street Volume 3. It's like deeper in the career mode, but that's like my ongoing quest is to unlock them. So that's my little Frank Easter egg of the week.
I like it. Yeah. So I like you said, I could imagine they pop up in an NBA Jam or something like that. I'm trying to see if I'm gonna look up because Giant Bomb has like a crazy. I'm gonna look up
wiki.
like Mike D here and see if we can. If he's
while you're looking that up, I was thinking, you guys remember the Californication music video for the Red Hot Chili
absolutely.
Peppers?
Dude. Yeah. Do you know the story behind that? Is that?
No.
Oh God! What? You tell your story first.
There's no story. I just me idly musing that a Beastie Boys version of that would have been way better. But a real video game.
I need to remember where this came from. I either somebody on Twitter told me they made that. I think that's what it is. I have to look this up now. And I remember thinking, this is the craziest story. We need to do a Noclip about it. Or maybe...
We could do that technically counts as a video games documentary.
Yeah, or maybe somebody else did a YouTube video about it. I forget. Okay, there's actually one here. Oh no, that's a Red Hot Chili Peppers video game. So the thing that I remember hearing was that footage was like from an actual game. Like, or they hired a game studio to make some of that stuff. Or the CG artist, I forgot. I need to look this up. This person who like reached out to me, I have to look it up.
I'm dying to know the details of this because that was a pivotal. I remember as a child wishing so badly that I could play the Californication music video. So if there is a playable build of it somewhere, I will do anything it takes.
Here is a from my good friend, industry person, Rich Stanton. March 7th, 2022 from PC Gamer. 23 years later, someone made the game from the Red Hot Chili Peppers Californication video. Where is this available? It's for free. I'm guessing it's on
Kazaa.
Oh boy. It's on itch.
Okay.
It's Commandog Dev. So imagine Commando and Dog together. COMANDOG dev.itch.io. You can play Californication, the video game, and you can be. I see Anthony Kiedis snowboarding.
Wow,
hell yeah!
Right here, pick it up, folks. But there was a story about the original. I have to look it up. Damn it.
Hey, space may be the final frontier, but it was made in a Hollywood basement.
Oh my god.
That's a line from the song. That
know.
That joke is for
Dude.
Oh, okay.
All they did was play that music video on MTV for like fucking 3 years nonstop.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, and it does look very like Tony Hawk 3, you know, because it's in SF, I think, a bunch as well. Oh no, yeah, it's in all over California. Man, whatever happened to the Chili Peppers? Did they ever try to do?
They're still active.
They're hot
are
now.
they?
They just put out like a double album this year. They're doing a tour. I just saw a show they got announced for in LA. There's this concert series. They're the headliners, so they're hot.
I do have to say though, I have a friend who's really into the Chili Peppers, and he sent me one of their recent songs, and it seemed like a fine song. But two notes, two constructive pieces of criticism.
Okay.
Number one, the music video was a bunch of young people longboarding, and then it kept cutting back to them. And I think having a bunch of 18-year-old girls longboarding in your music video only accentuates how old they've gotten.
Yeah, okay,
And
that's fair.
Number two, if you take I don't know the name of that song, so you're gonna have to do some digging if you want to do this interactive Noclip podcast segment at home. Take out your copybook now and write this down. The bass line for that song is the Can't Stop bass line, but it sounds it's like out of tune or something.
Oh no,
if
that's
you overlay it, it
that's
sounds
a
like
worry.
a nightmare version of Can't Stop.
That's the worry when you start to just repeat the same songs over and over again. Yeah, I can see. I bet Anthony Kiedis still like looks awesome with his shirt off.
He probably does.
I bet that guy's
All that
never
heroin
worn a
did him
shirt.
good.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Hey man, he wrote some good songs.
Hey, I'm only saying that out of knowledge because I read Scar Tissue and was a huge. I almost got a Red Hot Chili Peppers tattoo when I was a teenager. Thank Christ I did not. But yeah, no respect to the Chili Peppers.
Under the Bridge does not get written if you're just clean and easy, I guess.
Exactly. All my favorite songwriters are junkies, alcoholics, or riding the rails.
There you go, kids.
I mean that literally.
You want to be an artist? Go out there and get. No, Jesus Christ.
You're too sober to make good art, kid.
We're going to talk about some art today, but first of all, let's do a shout out to all of our amazing Battle Pass holders: Jason Drury, Cody Krieger, Forrest Pruitt, Andy Fagan, Cameron Ladd, George Sekotis. I'm just leaning into it now. George Sekotis, Jacob Godserve, and Tohir, the main man, Tilyaev. Thank you all so much for your patronage. Our documentary, it always feels weird calling the greatest hits episodes documentaries because to me they feel a bit more like TV show kind of. So I don't know, the internet video on Black and White. Our latest episode of Greatest Hits, our series all about classic games, has gone live. We interview Peter Molyneux and Mark Webley about the design of Black and White, and also we reached out to GOG to try and figure out who owns the rights and whether or not we will ever see Black and White released on digital platforms, because it is very hard to play, as Frank no doubt knows. On modern machines, you have to do a bunch of patching and fan patches and all that sort of stuff to get it working on an operating system. And shout out to the Black and White community as well for doing all that work, eh, Frank?
Yeah, I saw even one when we posted our video this morning. One of the modders who like made the patch that we use quote tweeted it and is like, "Oh, my community patch is in use in this video." I was like, "Yes,
That's very cool."
That's so cool.
So and then we had other developers like. Again, it's very like I'm always blown away because for me it's a work project and it's passion too. But we put it out there and then the actual people who worked on this game see the videos too, and it's oh my gosh. So forgive me for not knowing how to play the game.
yeah. If you want to see Frank attempting to play the game as well, you can go check out our video on Noclip Crew, where the two of us bounced around the world of Black and White for about 50 minutes or so. It was good time. Okay, today let's talk about some video games. Let's talk about SCORN.
Let's get into it, dude. Let's talk about
SCORN.
some scornographic images.
Exactly.
Talk about a little scornography.
You're tuned into ScornHub here, and we're just gonna dive right into the filthy. It's the latest Giger-like. You know, this genre has been blowing up. SCORN came out earlier this week. SCORN was kind of doing the rounds on various, press conference, trailer mashups, E3, Microsoft things for a while now. It's available on Game Pass. You can buy it for $40, I believe. Maybe it's on sale at the moment. On Steam, too. We'll talk about the price maybe a little bit later and how that sort of reflects on it. But it is available. SCORN. It is a first-person puzzle game, what we would say immersive, atmospheric puzzle game. It is very much cribbing off of the work of H.R. Giger. It is your Alien, your Prometheus, your sort of very phallic-looking alien-ribbed worlds, but also it has its own little flavor in there. It's got a lot of sort of body horror, Jeremy's favorite. There's loads of body. I watched half of the thing, actually. I didn't
nice.
finish it, which is bad. We'll talk about that later. I will finish it, but I was very tired, and it's a 2-hour-long movie.
It's taxing.
It is. It's very good though. Obviously. So it's a slow-paced puzzle game. Later on, it gets into some combat stuff, which I think is where a lot of the discourse, the SCORN discourse has been around, how bad the combat is, how intentional that may be, and so forth. Jeremy, I have played. I am maybe 2 hours in. I have not completed this by any means. I am definitely in what many people have considered the sweet zone, maybe, of SCORN. What is your feeling on SCORN, Jeremy, as a scornography lover yourself?
Yeah, you call me I'm a real scornographer. I am very, very pro SCORN. I played the entire thing yesterday, start to finish.
How long is it?
It's some people said it was 5 hours. I wasn't keeping track. It definitely took me probably at least 6, but I took a break to make hamburgers. So I don't think that's
saying
typical.
something. Were you like looking at your hands weird? My
hands got incorporated into the burger.
You're just like fingering the burger and like rubbing it around the pan just because.
Yeah. I made them phallic too. Like I had long burgers and put them on hot dog buns, just in honor of Giger. SCORN is fucking awesome. It is. Okay, so my prediction for SCORN going, and I'm not going to talk about the story at all because it's also kind of subjective, which I think is fun to just hear how people take it. So I don't want to shape anyone's experience.
Also, some of the puzzles have like multiple actual, like the first main one. That you can do that in 2 very different ways, which I did not realize until I looked up.
I didn't realize that until I beat the game and then was looking up stuff about it, and that's when I realized
the achievements split, don't they? Yeah,
exactly. So I think that a lot of the critique of this game is sort of that it's slow, it's atmospheric, it's quote unquote clunky, and I going into it I thought it was going to be one of those games where the aesthetic was so strong that I was kind of enamored with it, but ultimately by the time I got to the end, if I made it to the end, I was worried that I'd be kind of burnt out on the mechanics and say, it's one of those games where you can only walk slow, but it's for story reasons, it's cinematic, and that always kind of bugs me when the player gets boggled down by things and it's justified because it's narrative or it's immersive or something.
That's how we want you to play the game, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Like Red Dead walking through camp and or Arthur Morgan and he walks slow as shit, but he's a cowboy and it's cool. This game I don't think is clunky at all. Maybe my experience was colored by the fact that I played Silent Hill 1 very recently and I'm currently in the middle of Silent Hill 2. I think that this game...
It's like the opposite of the Red Hot Chili Peppers thing. Like you're surrounded by old people, and then you saw these beautiful young people, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, I was hanging out at the nursing home, and then I went to the mall and was like, why is everyone so young and beautiful? SCORN is very much a survival horror game. I think if you go into it with that mentality that you're going to have sort of moments of clunky combat, resource scarcity, that atmosphere is a big part of it. Think about the fog and the spookiness of Silent Hill. That's primarily what you're there for, I think. But to say that the puzzles are bad or the combat is bad, I think is really unfair. I think that it's first of all, I didn't think it was as clunky as people were saying. I thought the combat was cool.
What are you playing on?
I am playing on I have a house guest at the moment who brought their Xbox One because they have Game Pass.
Nice.
So also I played it for free, so that may have colored my experience. I think $40 is it's kind of a steep price tag for the runtime, but also I think this game is an experience worth having. I think it's so its own thing that I think if I paid $40 for this, or if I got it on sale for $35 or something, I wouldn't be mad about it. I think it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, to me this is a like, I don't understand, like, the SCORN discourse has been very weird because it's a lot of people who are very protective of this game, I might say overly so, and then there are people who are obviously like upset with it or disappointed, or people who really like it, or it's all over the place, right? And I think that's okay. I think the thing that's kind of weirded me out is that everyone else is trying to tell everyone else they're wrong. And this is the most mileage may vary fucking video game you can imagine. It has a very particular art style, which is not for everyone. It has gameplay that is like slow and methodical puzzle. At times this feels more like Myst than, at least I'm in the early stages, so I've not had any of the combat stuff or any of that. It does feel slow, but in a way that is like these puzzles are complex and you kind of need to go slow because like some of it's like you got to really think about the puzzle. It's not, it's not like puzzles in a first person game which are there to sort of break up the pacing of the action or whatever. It is more like a Myst where you're in the world to do the puzzle. So like the puzzle's the game, enjoy the puzzle. So I get why people wouldn't like this game. It's like it's not been made for everyone, and people will look at this and go, $40, this is an outrage. And people will say like, this is perfect for Game Pass because it's one of those games that like maybe I wouldn't have played, but I'm really glad I did. And then for some people, it's gonna like, like the games that are like have such a visual like thing they're going for that when it lands for someone, it's just gonna like hit the bat. So that's how I sort of also get why people are being protective about it, because for some people this is really going to land. And it's been interesting seeing all like the Gloomwood and Dusk devs and a load of other people who are making kind of games that try and do this stuff. Or who is it, the Iron Lung guy, because you've covered a bunch of his.
David Szymanski.
Yeah.
He's been very sort of like talking through his experience with the game as well, because I think for people like that, and for you, Jeremy, I kind of, when I was playing this, I was like, oh, I hope Jeremy plays it because I think you'll really dig this. It does seem like it's, and again, I haven't completed it yet, but it does seem like it's doing a bunch of interesting stuff, which is the interesting stuff that you like.
Yeah, absolutely. I really do think that Silent Hill is the best comparison for this, because I think when I was playing Silent Hill 1, I had a very similar feeling that I was surprised it's so widely beloved because it is really slow. And a lot of the gameplay loop, I'm now playing Silent Hill 2, and I think this takes this even further, where a lot of the gameplay loop is, oh, I explored the entire first floor. Now I go to the second floor. Okay, did the third floor. Okay, now let me look at the map and see, okay, this door is red, but did I go in there? Did I look at everything there? And it's very kind of meticulously working your way through environments. And Scorn is the same thing. Despite the presentation being so different and the fact that there's no map, very minimalist UI, it's that similar feeling of, oh God, did I miss something down in the scoop room with the crane, but I can't go down there because the weird little chicken fucking dudes are down there, and I don't have enough ammo, so I'm going to run by that guy because if I melee him, and the melee is 2 shots, and then it has to slowly fill up. If I don't nail both of those shots, the little chicken is going to shoot me with venom. And so it's very much about kind of internally mapping these spaces in your head, and the map that you build in your head is more experiential than anything. It's about it's not about, oh, that corridor, because everything kind of looks the same too. There was one, the only time I got frustrated in this game was there is one of the bigger environments, and it is kind of symmetrical on 3 ends. It's kind of 3 points, and each slice of the room, each third, looks almost identical. And you have to find 3 things. And I just was walking around saying, I've been here, I can't go here, I can't go here. And the only way I solved it was just assuming anytime I saw something that looked identical, I just had to tell myself, this might be something new. I might not be where I think I am. And it took me longer than I would have liked, but by the time I got through it, it precedes some of the best moments of the game. So if you play Scorn, in the first hour or two, there were a couple of moments where I was thinking, maybe this game isn't for me, maybe it's a little slow. Push through, just push the fuck through. I think I was able to push through Silent Hill 1 more readily because I had the preloaded context that it was a classic.
Right.
And so when it was slow, I knew that there was something worth pushing through for because it's so widely beloved. I think Scorn will be regarded similarly.
Oh, really? You think it'll? Well, not like Silent Hill 1 though.
No. I don't think it's going to change the history of survival horror, but I think it is a similar type of experience. I mean, if Silent Hill 1 for me is probably a 9 or a 10, Scorn is maybe an 8 or a 9.
Okay.
So I think it's fucking up there. Probably 8.5 is more fair.
The only thing is I don't think it has anywhere near the mass appeal
of
something like Silent Hill.
I don't either. I also think it is disgusting. It is a game that makes you feel sad and disgusted and betrays you.
Maybe we've talked around some of the so like it's a lot of like you were in an environment, you are you're moving things. You basically get these things. But it's first person, and you use your hands, your body, I should say, to like go up, press buttons and stuff. But instead of pressing buttons, it's like existence or something, where you're like having to like put your hand into a thing and it's all fleshy and weird, and it opens doors if you pull its nipples, and like it's just like weird, and there's like a lot of like messed up, body horror stuff with you and also other people that you are doing it to or seeing it done to, and it's lots of like weird fleshy door opening stuff. Existence is the one that always. Have you ever seen that movie? It's like,
I'm familiar with it, but I've never seen it.
It's a very strange game. It's kind of like about virtual reality, but through like a sort of what would you call it? Like a flesh port. It's like, imagine the Matrix, but instead of all of the things being made out of like steel, they were made out of like flesh. That's kind of what like there's a bone gun in the game or in the movie. It feels like where the guy has to like make a gun out of bones and teeth. It's very bizarre. It's a strange.
Scorn at moments does feel very much like a bio-organic version of the Matrix. There are a lot of moments where I feel as if the imagery when they first unplugged from the Matrix is very similar to some of the earlier moments in Scorn. So.
Yeah, pods and liquid and moving contraptions, moving bodies, and that type of it's like, in a way, it's the only other game I was trying to make. It reminds me of the processing plant that the alien slaves in Half-Life 1 are in, when they're like building I guess the egg grunts is what they decided to say in Black Mesa is what was getting built there. I'm not sure if that was always the case. Maybe it probably was.
Yeah, it is gross Zen. That is the setting of Scorn is disgusting Zen.
So I definitely, I think like I went into this game having seen some of the tweets and read some of the reviews, so I was kind of like, okay, I think I should give it more of a chance than maybe I would otherwise, and I got hung up on some of the puzzle. Like I think it's expectation so important in a game like this. I think if you puzzles in first person games and even in more modern contemporary survival horror games are generally there just to like break up the pace and make you feel good, because a lot of the time in survival horror games you're sort of being attacked, so your agency isn't great, so they kind of give you puzzles so that you are doing things and being smart and affecting the world around you in a way that doesn't feel like you're just being attacked all the time. And I think in Scorn, some of the puzzles aren't that like placatey. Like the way you said, the mirror of the world, I had that problem. And the other problem I had is that like, it's not like they just shine a light on like the port you're supposed to use at any one time. Or like, I actually really enjoyed the design of the opening like puzzle, the sort of conveyor belt room that you're in, because when you first went in there was probably like 10 different terminals that you interact with if you walk around and see them all, that you can like, it's very simple. Like you go up to one of these control pads, you press a button, and there's limited amounts of like movements, like preset sort of like positions some of these machines. And again, I'm only in the first couple of hours, so maybe this expands, but preset places that these like mechanical objects can go in, and then an action button that makes them like do an action when they're in that place. So it's very minimalist that way. But they showed you loads of these before showing you what you were going to use them on. You know what I mean? Like once you actually realized what the thing was going to be, it was kind of like, oh, okay, that's how this all snaps together. And I found that very like unique and interesting. Like I spent like 20 minutes walking around looking at the puzzle before I had any idea what I was going to be doing in that room.
Yeah, I think that this game is hostile towards the player in many ways, but I think the most interesting way in which it's hostile towards the player is sort of its indifference towards onboarding you into the puzzles and into these different rooms. It throws you in. At one point, I was thinking, I kind of wish I had a map, and then I stopped and was thinking, no, I think that would kind of ruin this game. I think if I knew where I was going, I wouldn't feel as if I was wandering around these big fleshy hallways trying to figure out what am I doing here? What is this place, and what do I need to do, and why am I doing these horrible things? And yeah, I don't know. I love its commitment to just, like you said, this game is polarizing. This game will either frustrate you to no end, and the puzzles are some of the puzzles are so fucking hard. There was a moment where I was thinking that this is David Cronenberg's The Witness. Like this is,
that's really good. Yeah, that's a good sell. Yeah.
There's a couple of moments where one puzzle in particular, I won't give any details about it, was so difficult for me, and then I finally got it, and then the game was like, oh, here's a more difficult version of that puzzle.
Oh my god.
And I just sat there smoking weed, staring at the screen for an hour on this one puzzle, which probably didn't help me solve the puzzle. But yeah, the puzzles are there. It's no joke. Like you said, it's not there just as a little speed bump. The puzzles are almost the most difficult, other than the navigation and a few combat moments. The most difficult part of this game is staring at these fucking puzzles and feeling the dumbest I've ever felt. I was thinking, if I don't stream on Twitch, although I've thought about it before, I'd be very embarrassed to stream this game.
Right, yeah.
Because I would get so in my own head as I people are watching and then they're in the chat. They're like, this guy's fucking stupid. And I would start to internalize that and just think, maybe I'm not smart enough to beat SCORN.
Yeah, I felt that way too. The amount of times I was like looking on my phone, like, will I just go to a guide just for, no, don't do it. And then after I did one of the puzzles, I went to the guide to look if I'd done it right, because I was like, there was like 5 terminals I did not use. Were those red herrings? Am I coming back here? Like I was very confused. I was like, oh, is this the type of game I'm playing? That like, you're just going to give me all these things and actually I only use like 10% of them. Like I could not figure it out. And then I went and looked it up and realized like, oh, there was actually like multiple ways of doing this, which also was like, okay. Like, and I kind of figured that because of the way the conveyor belt was set up, and I decided to do something. But that was like interesting too. So yeah, SCORN. Frank, do you have any desire to play this game? Do you have any questions about our time in fleshy Matrix, David Cronenberg's Nightmare Witness?
I was looking forward to it, especially because it was a Game Pass game and the horror vibes. And then I think it was Dylan.
Oh, do you have Game Pass, Frank? You have Game Pass?
I think Dylan Rogers, the Taffer King Gloomwood dev, was the first person to be like, hey, this is not at all like Doom. This is a puzzle game. So all the first-person boomer shooter fans, this is not what you're expecting. So I was like, oh, okay. I waited for it, and then I had a few friends play it and beat it and be like, oh, this game's amazing. So now I think I just have to be in the right mindset, like, because right now I'm in the mode where I'm kind of rushing through everything. So I want to take my time and enjoy it, and I'm very wary of puzzles in games, but Silent Hill is such a remarkable experience, and I feel like half of Silent Hill is the environmental exploration. This game also kind of feels like, from a gameplay like meter, opposite of Returnal, because Returnal also was an amazing like Giger inspired alien world, but you have no time to explore. You're running through and dodging bullets, whereas this feels like, oh, I can look at it, because anytime I see footage or screenshots, like, this looks awesome. But yeah, I and as you all talk about it, I'm like, okay, I'm in the mood to check this out, but I just got to have like the time and patience, which is very hard for me to build up. So of the combat that there is it, like, how often does it even come up? Is it even worth mentioning, or is it such a non-element?
I was surprised by the amount of enemies, because I had seen people defend the game by in sort of a counterpoint to people saying that the combat is clunky or whatever. I saw a few people say, oh, there's only a few enemies you really need to fight to beat the game. I don't know if I would agree with that. I definitely think the farther you get into the game, the more it's kind of leaning on trying to telegraph to the player, you don't need to fight everything. And in fact, if you do fight everything, you're going to be very low on ammo or have no ammo. And then you're just kind of fucked, because there was one moment where I went the wrong way. A corridor kind of splits in the middle, and I went the wrong way, and it was a dead end. And then I turned around, and there's like 3 dogs and a chicken monster behind me.
And we should talk about the saving, maybe, because that's a problem. Is that there's no manual save in this game. And
yeah, it kind of saves when you do a pivotal action when something changes.
So you can end up having to go back a bunch. Did you find that happening to you?
I definitely died a handful, maybe a half dozen times throughout the whole game at the most, but I never had to redo more than maybe 5-10 minutes at the very most. I did see a few reviews that said that was a big problem. I didn't encounter it.
Yeah, I mean, 5-10 minutes is a lot if it's combat. But
that's true. Yeah. But I guess the thing is that I think the first in any survival horror game, the first time you traverse an environment is the slowest you'll ever traverse it.
Right.
And I think replaying that 5 to 10 minutes, it usually took me a minute or 3 to get back to where I was. It never felt like I was set back more than a frustrating amount. In fact, the first time I died, I was kind of bummed because I thought it was going to be really punishing. And then subsequent times, I wasn't super pissed because it didn't seem like a big deal. It never set me back. The only thing that happened to me is I had a game-breaking bug very close to the end. I want to send them a bug report because this game is fucking fantastic and I want to help them refine it. But I tried to solve this puzzle for probably about 25 minutes because I didn't want to look up anything. I didn't look up anything the whole game, and I couldn't figure out how to solve this puzzle. And then I reloaded. I looked up a no commentary playthrough and just didn't want to spoil anything. I just got up to the point I was at.
Yeah.
And this big giant object was in the way of what I was supposed to do, and it wasn't supposed to be there.
Oh, crazy. Okay.
So I reloaded, and that object ended up being part of the puzzle, but it had instantiated in the wrong place and was just sitting in my way.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So
it's funny, like seeing like the stuff that you're saying, like you didn't have a problem with that, which is or you had that bug, but then it just goes to show, like, because people I think they're wondering at like why there were some particularly low scores for this one. Like GameSpot gave it a 4. Game Rant gave it 22 out of 10, 2 out of 10, or 1 out of 5.
Ooh.
And then at the top end, you've had Attack of the Fanboy giving it 100, which maybe says, leans into their title there.
That was me.
I'm trying to think of any big US ones here that are where they got it. PC Gamer gave it 8.
PC Gamer 8.
Yeah, VG 24/7 8. I don't know where IGN France is there with something else.
The opposite of Revenge of the Fanboy, there's Game Rant gave it 1 out of 5.
Right.
Fuck.
Yeah, I don't know where IGN France gave it 9. I don't know where IGN's. Let me look it up.
Yeah, I laughed because IGN gave it something low, and then IGN France gave it something high, and I was picturing IGN France being
French
like,
versions
"This
are
is
better."
art. You don't understand, IGN America. You charlatans.
This is Giger. How do you not love?
You do not understand. This is erotica. This is art.
So exactly, yeah. You do not like the breasts and the penis?
You do not like the disgusting penis world. You do not like art.
I got a 7 out of 10 on IGN, so I did all right.
Maybe I might be thinking of someone else then.
Well, maybe it was IGN Italy or something. Gave it a. Like, this is disgusting. Not refined. What's his German accent? Whatever. Anyway, but it's just
we're
like,
bad at accents. It's fine.
But like, yeah, there's that whole thing of like what what do you expect reviewers to do if you didn't like this game and you weren't vibing with the game and you found it difficult and you didn't like the parts of it, because we're all different and people like things and people don't like things, and you had to complete it. You would probably give it a 4 out of 10. And like, it's funny because like, I still don't understand why people don't like. I guess it's the idea that it's like GameSpot or it's like a big one like an IGN or something. If it feels like maybe there's more weight attached to them, perhaps than someone. Obviously that's been diluted over the years, but maybe there's that feeling of it. But like, what's the alternative? Are people supposed to be like, well, it wasn't for me, but I bet if you like this, it's probably a 7.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True. That's the difficult thing is I won't name names or anything, but I did read one review by a prominent reviewer, and they said they gave it a 2 out of 10 in this particular instance, and said this was bad about the game, and everyone I know felt the same way. And I thought that was a weird thing to say.
That's weird. That's
defensive.
defensive.
You're the reviewer, and so in this world, because I am very supportive of critics being critical of games and of movies. I think that's really important, and I think that the world of games criticism and movies criticism are very different, because I think there's more of kind of this is outside. I'm not talking about like reviews for big mainstream popcorn movies. I'm talking about just movie critique in general. I think there's a more welcoming audience where cinephiles see a critical review and can say, oh, okay, this is this subjective experience of this. I think when people love games, I mean, I might be wrong on this, but I feel that there is a defensive impulse to defend a piece of art that you like, and I see that in games where but I don't know. I
also think,
reviewers...
just to that point, I think the problem games have is that there's almost this like qualitative judgment that happens on, does the piece of software run properly, and people sort of construe that with, how do I feel about the game? And also some games, different games pull on those dials differently. Like if you're playing FIFA, how the game runs is way more important than the vibes. Whereas if you're playing Scorn, like, sure, you'll play, like, for instance, the motion blur on it, like, was doing my head in. I had to turn it off. It was like, so, if I found it like difficult to play the game, and I turned it off. But like, you know, and then the moving the camera was a little bit weird, but my eyes got adjusted to it after a little while. But I didn't care because I was there for the what they're putting out there. That's just like a barrier to entry. Whereas if that was a FIFA, you're feeling more like, oh, this needs to be running the way I need it to run. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a really good point, actually, is that I think people sometimes, if they see a bad review, they assume that it's the way someone would review something like Photoshop, where, you know, you're not using Photoshop and being like, oh, 4 out of 10. It's not for me. I don't know. I don't see what the hype is
you don't
about
get
this
it.
Photoshop
You don't
thing.
get it, man. You don't get
Photoshop, dude.
You don't get the magic wand tool.
Did you get to the end? Or?
Did you get to the end? There's no end to Photoshop. Is it true? I always feel like no matter how good I get at a piece of Adobe software, I still feel like I probably only know 10% of it. Do you ever feel that way?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you and I had a conversation about Premiere recently, where there was a feature that we've never used in 6 years of working together.
Yeah,
and it would have changed our lives. I just never thought about what a big change it would make.
That's my favorite thing. Every summer where I teach like 12 kids, like one of them will discover like a cheat code in Premiere, and it's like, oh my god! Every single summer I learn a new feature. I just learned that Premiere has like auto captions, like it'll generate like captions automatically, and then you can adjust it, and they're actually fairly accurate.
What?
Yeah. It will automatically generate closed captions based on your interviews or dialogue.
Wow.
Holy shit.
So
yeah,
there you go.
I need to go back to school. This is bad. Any final thoughts on Scorn? I guess had we rounded out that comment? I guess the idea that I think the lesson that I would take from the Scorn discourse is that this is like, it's okay that people like or don't like this game. That's what makes games like I guess because we live in the world of, you know, game sales are required to allow people to make more games, and if games sell more, then studios can make better versions of those ideas because they can hire more people and bring in new talent and do XYZ. That we are sort of predisposed to this idea that for a game to be successful, it needs to be sort of wildly mainstream successful with lots of people and be the next big indie breakthrough and yada, yada, yada. And it's kind of cool to see someone make a game that is clearly just like the fucking game they wanted to make and isn't like necessarily trying to do all that. It's kind of like it's for the people it's for, and, you know, mileage may vary.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. I think that's part of the urge to be to be defensive of games like this that are smaller in scale, that took a long time to make, that are clearly very driven by a very strong vision. I think that we need to support devs who have a strong vision like that that's wildly different from anything else out there. And so when I see a low review of a smaller game that I really like and think it needs support, there is a part of me that wants to be defensive, because there's a part of me that says, okay, this game wasn't for you, but that doesn't mean you should tell other people not to play it.
Good point.
But
yeah,
it's a catch-22, because that's what a reviewer that's their job, you know? So yeah, I think if you like survival horror games, or you like things that are creepy as fuck, play Scorn, push through. I also, without saying anything in any detail, I think this game gets better as it goes for the most part, and I think that
that's cool.
The final third of the game is probably the best part of the game. Oh,
that's wonderful. Okay.
My jaw was on the fucking floor by the end.
Interesting. That's Scorn, made by Ebb Software out of Serbia. So not many Serbian developers. Also, according to their top line on this one, it's not just an HR Giger, but also, I will butcher
Bakinski.
this. Yeah, okay, you know this. Zdzislaw Brakinski, is that right?
I know the name. I saw people referencing this. I don't really know this dude, though.
He is a Polish painter, sort of Gothic painter, Baroque style, perhaps. Of painter. I am familiar actually with one or two of these paintings, the like sort of emaciated skeletons hugging. I've seen that before on oil. Yeah, interesting thing. It started dev back in 2013, I believe. They did a successful Kickstarter. They did two of them actually. Another one in 2017. So there has been a lot of eyes on this one. Obviously that sort of comes with the expectation as well. So hopefully there's not some crazy backlash perhaps happening. I have not had a look at what the Steam situation is with the reviews. It is mostly
it's gotten
positive.
Way up.
Yeah, it was low, I think, but it looks like people are rallying or something. Is that right?
Yeah, it was mixed for a while. I think it's back into mostly positive now.
Mostly positive, and there are 4,298 reviews. So that suggests that it's sold pretty well too, which is good. Obviously, liquidity was probably an issue if they did 2 Kickstarters and they also signed a Game Pass deal. And for those who don't know, those are sort of you get your payment and that's it. There is no residuals based on how many people played it or anything like that. So yeah, I hate bringing this as part of the conversation, but it obviously has to be part of the conversation. I do think $40 is too much for it. I've only played 2 hours of it, but it seems.
I agree. I love this game and I beat this game. I think if it was, I think 20 might be too low. I think
agree.
40 is too high. Yeah. So yeah, it's tough too because I think duration of an experience is not the be all end all. You know, there are movies that changed my life that if I had to pay $100, knowing that how much they would change my life if I had to pay $100 to see Princess Mononoke one time, it would be worth it. But yeah, it's tough. It's clear how much time and artistry went into this game, and so I can understand why they might have to charge a premium price on it because of the amount of just man hours that go into making something of this. Every single environment is so dense with detail, so hand tailored. It just yeah, I don't know. It's tough because there's the duration versus the amount of work that goes into it, and I just don't know where to land on that.
And it's funny you mentioned The Witness. The Witness is a game that sells for $40 as well, but I think that might be closer to 20 hours to get round. I mean, that's a real mileage may vary, but like 15, 20 hours. And then if you wanted to like quote unquote complete all of the stuff that's in that game, it's probably twice that. So, you know, but like I said, it's kind of a dirty thing because like, you know, games are already pretty cheap for what you get, and in a world in which the annualized football franchise costs you $70, but Vampire Survivors might cost you $3, it seems like such a weird place to be making these types of judgments. But I can appreciate with people, given the hard money that they make, they work to make money, that if they wanted to play this game and it was $40, that might be a bit much. But anyway, it's Steam is for sales, so keep your eyes on it, and it's on Game Pass in the meantime. That's Scorn. Scorn over. No, do you have any more Scorn puns? I was quite happy with ScornHub actually.
ScornHub's great. Yeah, they were mostly just the same joke about porn. Yeah, I think that's amateur Scorn. You know, things
Group
like that.
Scorn.
All the different genres.
Scorn on the cob.
Yeah, Scorn on the cob. There you go.
Scorn on the cob. God,
yeah,
that's very evocative of the game as well.
Yeah. You are kind of one of the kernels on the cob of this environment.
The teeth like pulling them off, and
there was an anti-review or a negative review on Steam that said "Scorn" more like "Snorn" because this is so boring. So,
oh wow,
just you know,
got him.
I like the idea that a bad review is an anti-review.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Do not trust
it's like it's like Andy Kaufman is an anti-comedian.
Yeah.
I want to be an anti-reviewer.
That's true. Yeah.
I think an anti-review would you would do the kind of highfalutin critic thing where a movie is about horses, and then you're like, you know, since the dawn of time, man has needed to move faster than his legs could carry him. You know, the anti-review goes far afield from the topic.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Even on Steam, it gives you the thumbs up or thumbs down. There should just be a neutral where it's like, no, I don't know. Read the essay, you assess it. Do I like it? Do I not? I don't know.
Yeah. I really like that. I know Steam reviews are like bad, you know.
Rotten Tomatoes, yeah.
That's a whole other thing to talk about. But one of my favorite things is reading reviews from people and seeing where people vibe with the reviews, like the thumbs ups and thumbs downs, and then seeing like how long people have played, and like there's something really voyeuristic about it. And then also like looking at their other reviews or like how respected they are. Like what a weird career you can have just making like reviews on Steam.
Yeah, my favorite is like the thumbs down but 2,000 hours played, and it's like, buddy,
I don't know what to tell you, dude. Yeah, you did this to yourself.
Yeah,
I'm sure this was a thumbs up 600 hours
yes.
ago, and you've just pummeled it into the ground.
Just left it running at your grandma's house or something.
I can't wipe this off my Steam library.
Oh my god! Yeah, they give it a thumbs down because they're embarrassed how much they've played it.
It's madness. I'm like cognizant of like not repeating myself because I was on the Jeff Gersman experience, Jeff Gersman's podcast. Exactly. Yesterday, so that's available where podcasts are sold. And we did a lot of it's a 3.5 hour. That guy's a madman. It's a 3.5 hour podcast. and he usually does on his own. So like there's with a sore throat sometimes. So that's a level of talking that I just can't compare to. But we talked about a bunch of stuff, lots of media stuff, this, that, and the other. We talked about Stunt Derby a little bit too as well. At the G4 stuff, I talked about a lot with him. I'm not sure if we want to touch on it too much, but just to mention it here a little bit, it'd be kind of weird if we didn't maybe, just because we tend to chime in on this stuff here and there. Obviously, G4 was relaunched last year. I don't have a massive affinity with that brand. Being a European, it was fairly limited in its exposure outside of North America as far as I know. But obviously I understand its place, within especially like the college lives of maybe people of our age and generation. They brought it back. They went for a big swing with all of their various shows, brought in a lot of talent, spent a lot of money, went for Twitch, trying to get on TV as well, YouTube, multiple channels, all that sort of stuff. Ultimately, they had a couple of layoffs back in the summertime, and then in sort of not the best manner, informed some of their people that they were shutting down on Sunday, but a lot of these people found out via Twitter, some just seeing a tweet from everyone's favorite deal man, Wario64, telling them that they lost their job. I think it got leaked to Deadline or something like that. It was just a bit messy. But anyway, G4 shut its doors again. The project did not go ahead. Talked a little bit about the sort of like the interesting time that perhaps a lot of games media is going to run into in the next couple of years. Sorry, I shouldn't say games media, just online media with ad revenue, kind of CPMs floundering a little bit of a plateauing on membership stuff and all that. And perhaps they saw which way the wind was blowing. Any thoughts with you guys? Did you tune into any of the G4 stuff back in the day, or did you watch much of what they put out? I admit it was not of my particular tastes.
I loved G4 when I watched it back in, 2004, 2005. I kind of got in late after they consumed Tech TV, because apparently like Tech TV back in its day was amazing. Like I was a fan of Leo Laporte and stuff like that, and I think even Kevin Rose was involved back when it was Tech TV. G4 took them over and then kind of like, I don't know. This might be dumb. Like it seemed like they dumbed down the content, and then also added like Cops reruns and American Gladiators, stuff like that. But I did like X-Play. I loved Attack of the Show. That felt like they really spoke to me. I don't know. I was 13, 14, but it was like, oh, internet stuff, mods, community, like Battlefield 2 play dates. So I loved it. And then when G4 came back, they made the splash, but it felt like they never fully came back. I never saw any content like being retweeted on my feed. I don't know what they produced. Did they do new X-Play? Did they do new Attack of the Show? Did they have other shows where they just a Twitch feed? So, and I think you guys kind of touched on it where it's like, yeah, I don't know if they just didn't market it enough. There was so much conversation about G4 coming back that it still felt like they were still rebuilding. So for them to just all of a sudden shut down was like, oh, so was this live? I really had no idea. And I'm someone who kind of liked early 2000s G4. So maybe they updated the tone, which maybe was the right move. But for me, like I felt like they should have done more throwback stuff. Maybe they were doing that. I just never saw it.
I'm the same way. I was a huge fan of X-Play and early G4 stuff. I mean, I don't know how early. I don't know how far back G4 goes, but it seemed early to me. At the time, it was, this was 2003 or 4, so I was somewhere between 12 and 15 years old. And at the time, because the internet communities around games were more kind of nascent and smaller and more niche, it felt to me like seeing a piece of television that was about video games felt like a big deal to me, in the same way that if you're into, because I feel that games have so much more cultural sort of permeation now that you can go anywhere and mention video games if you're in a room of 20 people, and at least a few of them will have some level of experience with games. And games have always been popular, but at the time it definitely felt like more of a niche thing. I don't know if that was my experience growing up in rural Massachusetts. I don't know if this was everyone's experience, but to me it felt like I was into something that most people I knew were not into it to the same level. They were just sort of casually acquainted with it. And so seeing my passion for games reflected in something that had a massive audience and was, on fucking cable TV, it felt like a really big deal, in the same way that if you're into some obscure artist and you're walking down the street and you see someone with a t-shirt with that piece of art, your brain lights up because you're like, oh my God, there are others of us out there. Obviously it's not that, video games aren't that niche, but it did feel like a big deal at the time. And yeah, I don't know. I loved X-Play, and I agree with Frank. I feel like I knew that G4 was live, and there are a few streamers who are kind of adjacent to streamers that I am more familiar with and watch occasionally and whatever, and they would kind of promote their own stuff that they were featured on G4. But beyond that, it never felt like, I mean, maybe because it's such a different media landscape now, maybe the idea of G4 as a brand that is recognizable in the way that Kleenex are recognizable as a brand wasn't enough to carry it into prominence, because I never felt like there was a killer program where it was, I have to see this thing. There was never a clip that percolated beyond G4 and was circulating around Twitter that I saw and thought, I need to, whatever show this is from, I really want to watch. I think maybe... yeah, I don't know. I wonder if there was just no clear vision for the individual programs, or if they were just trying a bunch of stuff and nothing stuck.
Yeah, there's kind of like, you're right. There's like two. There's like the I don't know, the generous and the maybe less generous, reactions to this that you can sort of percolate from. I think there's some interesting tweets sort of from people, Danny Pena and Golden Boy and some other people who've been tweeting about it, who obviously were there for the whole time. I believe Golden Boy was doing his contracts negotiation when he found out the place was shut down, and it's been interesting hearing their perspective on it, of like what they were trying to do, of like trying to promote maybe the shows ahead of G4, but then G4 was trying to promote all of G4, so maybe, like you said, like none of them got through, that type of thing. I think the less generous interpretation, the media landscape is definitely different as well, insofar that when G4 was around, at least that was like, there was only one of those, right? Only one person, only one team was trying to make this big video network thing that was going to be on television, right? Now that's everyone. So who are you asking to promote you? Are you asking your competitors to promote you? You know what I mean? Like everyone, be it an individual who has a YouTube channel or a Twitch page, or a media organization like an IGN or whoever, that's who you're up against. So that wasn't the case before, you could argue, because they was on terrestrial television, maybe with IGN, but like nobody else. But now it's like, if those are the people, if you're wondering why people didn't promote it unless they were on the show, for instance, in that example, well, that's why, because people don't generally tend to promote the people who are there fighting for viewership over. The less generous interpretation you could have is that just none of the stuff hit. That like, if it was good enough, if the stuff was of a certain like resonance with people, I'm not saying quality. They clearly had a lot of people who were really trying their hardest. They had a lot of people maybe spread thin across a lot of shows. I don't know, but they had a lot of different stuff going on. But whether or not something is like well made and is effortful, and whether or not it resonates with the audience or not, those things are mutually exclusive, and it never felt like anything clicked. So, like, to me, that's the answer, is that, like, they had a big platform. I think the watermark they had to reach was way harder than anyone else's. So that is a lot of pressure, and probably also changes the stuff that you're making. You probably don't have time to build small communities around all these shows and have them organically produce, like, big, the sort of terrestrial communities that over the years flourish and all that sort of stuff. It's all going on one Twitch channel. You need to get, like, if you're, all those numbers used to be obfuscated, by ComScore or Nielsen or whoever. Whereas, like, now people can see that your Twitch stream has 4,000 people, and that's, how could you do that? That's going to be great for us, but like not for, be good, decent for Giant Bomb, but it wouldn't for G4 with all that stuff. You can't run a business that size on that. And same with YouTube numbers, and it's all out in the open. So when it's all out in the open, people smell that shit. They smell blood in the water. Like we know with the Patreon stuff, if you do stuff and it doesn't seem like there's resonance around it, people are less excited by it. And that's why YouTube channels blow up, because you see these people get excited by the thing that's happening there, and you can't fake that. And it's hard to do it when you're a big media org, So in a way, I kind of feel like, from a business perspective, it probably makes a lot of sense to cut and run. I know that's the way VC stuff works. If it's not working, make your bets. Make 100 bets. And if one of them works out, then that's the reason. And it sounds like this came from that type of VC world. And, if it's not working, pretty soon if you're losing a lot of money on it, and them's the breaks kind of thing. But yeah, I feel bad for everyone because it clearly shows everyone was trying very, very hard. Hopefully everyone who worked on it got a lot of experience and, something cool for their resume. I'm sure all the folks who are based in LA will have no problem getting other bits and bobs in video work or TV show running or hosting or that type of thing. I hope that's the case anyway. But yeah, that's my feeling on it a little bit. G4, we'll see you again in 10 years.
Yeah. Rip G4 for now.
Rip for now, exactly.
I'm ready to rebrand it or rebuild it, reboot it again. Let's just try again.
We need G5.
What does it stand for? Does anyone know what it stands for?
Gaming. No, games for people. I don't know.
Games, gadgets, girls, and I'm just thinking like with
G-Fuel?
the frat boy mentality here. And G Fuel, yeah, exactly.
That's a great question. Dude, I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like there's not a clear answer. I'm Googling.
But even like, I don't know, just from my own perspective, looking at the YouTube channel, it looks like every other big gaming YouTube channel where it's too broad. And I don't think any like teenager or kid is going to think this is cool because who are these older people? Anyone who are our age now, we have already splintered off and found our own personalities or tastemakers. Like, I don't know. So it just seems, I think,
Sorry, no, go ahead.
I think if they're on it like 15, like when YouTube started in 2008, if they had launched forward, I don't know. And again, like hindsight, it's such a naive place for me to speak to. But just from looking at their page, it's like there's nothing here that appeals to me. So it's like, so did it appeal to anyone? And again, there's creative staff on there, people working hard. Like Xavier Woods kicks ass. Like all these people are awesome. And like even look at their page, they had an Ed Boon interview up 7 days ago. That didn't get floated to my feeds. Like I love Ed Boon. So
there's a Peter Moore one back in a couple months ago. They got Reggie on. I remember seeing that one got floated around a bit. I think you spoke to. I think what was one of the issues. And people say like, oh, it was too broad, or oh, I wanted more of the old people, or or I wanted one of the classic folks, or like why is this new stuff here? And like, when you're making a media organization that big, you have to shoot that. Like you got to go wide. You have to go wide and see what sticks. That's totally true. And I think the thing that I got interesting from reading some of the people who have left was that idea that this stuff, and you kind of spoke to it there, is that like having it all on the same YouTube channel. And I know they did have a split away for Attack of the Show or something. They did another one, but like those, like you said, and like that person said, they probably should have been all their own pots. Like you have, I should not be giving Rooster Teeth as an example to how to run your media company this week of all weeks. But like you have Achievement Hunter, you have Funhouse, you know what I mean? You have whatever, all these other shows, you have Ruby, you have all this sort of stuff, and Rooster Teeth is the company on top, right? And I'm sure they have their own YouTube channel, of course, all Red versus Blue stuff on it, and probably loads more. But those things exist in their own buckets, right? And that's probably then where you curate that type of familiarity on the channel. But yeah, obviously that's not how the cookie crumbled.
The only other thing I was thinking is that I think it's more of an uphill battle with this sort of decentralized nature of internet media, games media especially, because me personally, when the types of media figures that I am most drawn to are the ones who feel like there's the fewest layers of resistance between them saying exactly what they want to say, and I think the more management, middle management, and executives and venture capitalists who are standing behind them, the less from the hip they can shoot on everything. And I think that I don't know, I think when you're a giant studio pop band, if there's a million good punk bands in the scene who are speaking more acutely to their audience's experience, I think that you feel that. And so I think that they have to lean into things like getting interviews with Ed Boon and Reggie because they have sort of the prestige and can access those people. And I think maybe they just didn't find the right way to leverage the money and the platform. And I think that they were going toe to toe with people, they're like this big frigate and they're going toe to toe with these little Coast Guard cutters that are swimming circles around them. So,
and I think that like, I don't think anyone is surprised by this. And it very much felt like at the start that they were kind of going against the tide, to continue our aquatic metaphors here. You know what I mean? That they were trying to, because I mean, that we're both from GameSpot and we understand how difficult it is to turn that big ship, right? Like it is hard to try and be this large catch-all media entity, and they were doing it even bigger and in video, which just costs so much more than text. So, yeah, like it was a big swing, kind of, they're going for, and obviously it didn't hit, but fair play to everyone for giving it their best, I guess, and onward we go. The meat grinder that is talking about video games on the internet. I think it's a wonderful, it's a great meat grinder to be in, as far as I'm concerned. I've never been ground into meat. I've been dodging the meat. I think we've all avoided it a little bit, so maybe that's part of it. But we're all very lucky to work in this line of work, and so that's the case. And for all those people who are obviously part of that, many of them I feel like had fairly established independent careers already prior to this, and hopefully for the back staff as well, backup room staff, that they go on to better things. That's G4. There you go. I don't have anything else to talk about this week. Had Alex here in the studio on Friday, added a bunch of shit to Stunt Derby. He added a replay system in, which lets you do like crazy. You can go backwards into the sky and do like focal length zooms down on the camera, on the cars, and track them and stuff. So once Frank's done with his other work, his academic work, we'll get you thrown into some of that sort of stuff. What are you guys doing for the rest of your weeks? What are you doing? This week for me, it's just been interviews and meetings, and Crystal Dynamics stuff.
Yeah, for me, it's a balance of like just finishing all these projects. Like the second half of November, I'll be like, oh my god, I'll be so free and excited. I did find out G4 stands for the 4 generations of video games: text, sprites, polygons, and textures. So that sounds like
catchy.
Text. Okay, so text-based games,
sprites.
I feel like sprites came before. I mean, Tetris in the whatever, or Pong, whatever. Text, sprites,
polygons, and textures.
But a sprite and a polygon are like two different. They're not. A sprite is made of polygons, right? So they're saying 3D.
A sprite doesn't have to be made of polygons.
It can be made of voxel.
Is a flat plane
still a polygon? Is a polygon a 3D object always?
I don't know.
I guess it is. Maybe. So sprites are made of pixels and polygons are always 3D, I guess. Polygons are 3D pixels.
A sprite is a monogon.
And what was the last one? Textures.
Yeah, textures.
It's really just it's sort of like a subcategory of polygons a little bit.
See, that's
I
don't know.
That's where the heart of G4 is
Textures.
so fun. Is it's the beginning of this explosion of this new wave of games media. They were like the first, and now they're a dinosaur. They're extinct again. It's like Jurassic Park. We had an experiment. We never stopped to ask ourselves why. But I think I adore old school G4. So even like whatever person came up with that 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever. Yeah, G4.
If we're all saying G4 and it just sticks, it sounds like a TV channel. I think it kind of works that way a little bit too.
True. Yeah, it sounds like BBC 4.
I feel like
exactly.
The
Gamer
truth,
4.
Yeah, the true thing is G4 lives on us all. Everyone who received its broadcast signals, we soaked it in, and now we all represent G4.
True. The radioactive molecules within our bodies that we've absorbed from living adjacent to Wi-Fi boxes our whole lives, that's the real G4.
That's G4. It's inside of us. It's not 5G, it's G4.
And then
it's G4 years to live because you've absorbed so much radiation.
And then I guess in terms of just like one quick thing to like plug or talk about, as Adam Curtis has a new documentary series.
Oh.
Yes,
it's called
series.
Trauma Zone.
Yeah, and Jeremy, I was going to message you or just say it here. It is Russia, 1985 to 1999, what it felt like to live through the collapse of communism and democracy. I've watched 2 episodes so far. It is just raw, like BBC archival footage of Russia year by year as like communism falls and then extreme capitalism takes over, and it is like unbelievable. It is amazing. There's no voiceover. Adam Curtis just has like some text and titles. You're just watching like the most insane footage. Like,
oh wow,
it is,
dude. I'm so excited. I saw the trailer, and there was a scene where there was a little kid with a gun, like showing off a bunch of stuff that was for sale, and this little kid holding this revolver. It looks so.
They
fucking
follow
good, dude.
like, I don't know what you would call it. Like they follow a street child who just goes around and begs all day every day in Russia, and that kid is the bread maker for the family. And it's like there's so much footage. Like there's a shot of this kid inside the McDonald's, and it's like, I got to be careful. The cops can take me away anytime. And the cameraman's like, you're just eating a burger. You're okay. I don't know. Like,
oh my god, dude.
But I remember because I traveled to Russia in the late 90s with my mom, and there were always children coming up and just trying to dime your dengue, dime your kusha, dime your dengue, give me money or give me food. And it's so fun watching this with my mom because it's almost like we're time traveling together. It's also helping me understand because my mom immigrated to America, I believe, 89, like around like as yeah. So it's very like fun and therapeutic for me to watch because I understand my family more, I understand my mother more, and then now I understand present day Putin in Russia, and so it is really really good.
What's it available on? Sorry.
It's on BBC iPlayer.
Yeah, which apparently if you use VPN you can access. I just got it through the old fashioned way, but yeah.
I was gonna say the end of Can't Get You Out of My Head, his last series, was the best exploration I've seen of how we got from fall of the Soviet Union to Putin. Like it contextualized that transition so well for me that I'm excited to see him hone in on that more, because Can't Get You Out of My Head was such a wide-ranging amalgamation of different topics that were all sort of thematically connected. So, but the end left me haunted, especially given that it came out before any of the war in Ukraine stuff that we're seeing now. Crimea had happened previously, obviously, but it felt prophetic in many ways to watch that, understand the situation, and then see all this come pass.
I love his stuff. He is so cynical though. I feel like the future Adam Curtis point storage is always 10 times worse that'll end up being happening. But it's it's kind of nice to brace for it. You know what I mean? It's nice to
every time something nice happens. Yeah, every time something nice happens, he cuts and then goes, but then something terrible happens. And it's like, I hear that sometimes in my head when anything goes right in my life. I'll just picture Adam Curtis being like, but then something extraordinary happened and it was terrible for everyone.
He's like, it's funny, like in my head, like I love his work. I absolutely love his work. But he also is like, to me, he's like one of the, like a blogger who like has these like unified theories, but instead of like writing them down like a madman on the internet, has this incredible artistic ability to like work with film and editors and edit to like produce these very evocative, like touching things. And a lot of what he talks about is very insightful and on point. I always get a little bit like, oh, I would believe like the honey that you're pouring into my ear, I would believe anything you say. So I'm like a little bit guarded about it as well.
Yeah, there is a way in which it is cigarettes for the soul. It's some sort of carcinogenic drug where you watch it and you feel intoxicated by this sort of broad understanding it gives you, but also so weighted down. Like it's the inverse of ignorance is bliss. It's like forbidden
Madman's
Lovecraftian knowledge.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, Adam Curtis is the most Lovecraftian documentary filmmaker.
Exactly. You start to see all the what's it called is it Madman's Lodge in Bloodborne? I forget. No. Yeah.
Insight is the thing it gives you.
You start to see all the horrors that are actually in the world for the first time.
Yeah, demons on the ceiling.
Exactly. Cool. All right, I'm gonna check that out too. I watched the first half of the thing. It's really good. Let's talk about it next week, and I'll watch the second half. I hate watching movies in two parts, but I fell asleep. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a long movie.
It's fucked up. I don't trust dogs anymore. Or wolves,
it's so
whatever
good.
it's called.
This is just one last comment on the thing that no spoilers, obviously. The guy who did the special, I watched Edward Scissorhands the other day, and the guy who did the special effects for the thing did the special effects for Edward Scissorhands.
It's such a good movie.
I couldn't stop thinking about the thing during Edward Scissorhands. it either I don't know if it made it better or ruined it, but it was an experience.
Excellent. All right, that's a pod. Thanks, gents. Fun to support our work, fun of documentaries, get access to all that bonus shenanigans, and hop on our Fistel Discord, and get a key for Stunt Derby. Head over to patreon.com/Noclip. We're on Twitter. Watch our videos. You know the drill. Review the podcast if you want. If you don't like G4, you grew up in England or Ireland, you watch TV shows, we have an interview with Dominic Diamond, who is the host of Games Master back in the day. That is currently up on the podcast feed. You can watch the video version of our interview as well on the Noclip podcast YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Noclip podcast, just in case you forgot. Also, I think that was episode 94, so this was actually episode 95, so I got it wrong at the start. So I don't know. Maybe Jesse will say it, or I'll just say it now and he can cut it in. Hello, welcome to episode 95 of the Noclip podcast. If he doesn't do it, it's totally fine. I get it. Whatever. He has to do triage on these things. It's not.
That was a clean take.
That was
Thank
awesome.
You. I appreciate it. I'm usually louder, or my Irish accent has gotten stronger or weaker. I don't know. It's hard to tell. All right, before we go, Jeremy, what are you doing for the rest of your week? What are you playing?
Oh man, after Scorn, I'm just gonna curl up into a little ball and think about life. No, I got some color correction to do. I don't know. Any suggestions for games? I'll probably play more Silent Hill 2 because it's fucking awesome, and I think it's a fitting follow through on the Scorn vibes.
Excellent. What about you, Frank?
Let me see. Oh, honestly, I've been trying to finish my backlog before like Call of Duty comes out. I got sucked into Ghostwire Tokyo because it came out in March, but that's actually the perfect game to play in October. It's Ghost. It's actually pretty chill. I've unlocked more of the traversal stuff, so it doesn't feel as like sluggish. Because at first it kind of has a little slow curve, but now it's a very good podcast game. I listened to your 3.5-hour Jeff Gerstmann episode while playing it, so it's at this point it's probably on sale. Ghostwire, if you like Ubisoft collectible type games, it's not bad. I kind of like it. It's good for this time, good for the season.
Yeah, talked a little bit about it back in March on the podcast. For me, what am I doing? I got back into Vampire Survivor. I played too much of it now, so I kind of stopped again. I've been playing The Last of Us Part 2, actually. I've just been going back and checking out some of that,
nice.
Which has been fun because I played The Last of Us Part 1 when that remake thingy came out, so I've been jumping into that. Me and my wife were playing Worms WMD. We were trying to think of like good co-op games to play together, so I got that Man of Medan, the Dark Pictures anthology game, so you can kind of like make decisions together on who lives and dies and all that sort of stuff. But I was, as a complete like curveball, I was like, why don't you just try Worms? And she'd never played or seen Worms before, and we ended up playing last night for like 2 hours.
Oh,
so
I love it.
Worms is so fun.
Awesome.
Your wife is a fan of Pharaoh, I remember.
Yes.
You should try Heroes of Might and Magic 3. I know it's not an RTS or a management sim, but I think it's a really fun kind of round robin game to sit around and play.
Okay, and also mentioning that .emu, I think, are producing or publishing a Pharaoh remake, A New Era. There is a Steam page for it. You can wishlist it. It looks like a HD remake of Pharaoh, so no date on it quite yet, but yes, it's a good ass video game. If ever there was a game that should have gotten one of those trapezoid boxes, right?
Yeah, true.
Pyramid box. Come on, man. Pharaoh. Let's do it. All right, that's the podcast. Thanks so much for hanging out, everyone. We love you. Take care. Watch our black and white documentary. We'll see you next week. Bye.